Hi students, I wanted to go over the research paper. So with the research paper, it does need to be on one topic, so you get to pick the topic. The topic does have to relate to our class in some type of way, so something that you either found interesting throughout the course or something that maybe you kind of had a different feeling about it would be a good option for this. So what you're going to need to do right off the bat is finding 5 empirical articles. I do have a video on helping with empirical articles, and I do have a video how to help to find empirical articles online. So please make sure to watch those to help you find empirical articles. So once you find your 5 empirical articles, you must send them to me in a PDF, in inbox, or in an email. So you might have to send them individually. It might be 5 messages, it might be 5 inboxes, whatever. If you can attach all of them, that's fine. I will not accept any links. I will not accept any online from the library because often I won't know it's you. So you do have to download the article to your electronic device, usually it would probably be a laptop or a computer, and then you would have to save it as a PDF. And then you would send that to me in a message. You need to send those to me before working on your paper because I need to confirm that they're empirical. So a helpful hint with empirical, it means it has a method section, meaning that there's some participants, it tells you how many, it gives you the demographics about them, they talk about, the measures, the items being used. So that's really helpful on that. So it must have a method section. I will not be accepting summary articles, which means there is no method section, or government agency support articles. So it must be 5 empirical, all on the same topic. So with this, students always ask me, how many pages should it be? I really don't like telling you pages, but to get a reasonable grade, you're going to be about 9. And what does that consider? You're going to need an APA title page. So I do have some samples in the module. And then you're going to have you're going to be writing a summary on every article. So that's going to be at least 7 pages on that end. Realistically, it probably should be a little bit more to get a better grade. So I'm looking for details behind it, and I'm going to go over what I'm looking for in a minute. And then you're going to need a reference page. So with this, how do I even start off doing the paper? You are first going to have your APA title page, which is pretty simple enough. APA has slightly changed in the last year. Well, I don't know what year we're going to be in, but we're from the 6th to the 7th edition, so either or will be fine with me. Now, how do you start the paper off? You're starting the paper off with an introduction. You're basically setting the reader up to kind of know about the topic you're picking. So you're going to be defining the topic, you're going to provide statistics, you're going to explain it with some examples of the topic. So you need to be specific in that. It needs to connect to the areas of domains that you're looking at. The specific age group that you're looking at might be important, depends on your topic when we're talking about this. And another important thing is you need to support some of these claims with your textbook or the PowerPoint. So it needs to be cited in APA. By this point in the class, hopefully we're catching on to APA. If not, send me a message or look over the APA videos. But this has to be a pretty in-depth introduction. So it needs to be at least a paragraph, if not longer. So I want some details in there, and you must cite. If you do not, I'm going to be knocking some points off on there. I do have a sample in the module, so please go to the module to help you on that. And then you would start on to your first article. So I would probably use headers. I would probably put a header like introduction, and then I put another header talking about article 1. And then I would, basically start writing a summary on that. So your summaries, you're going to need to at least cite in these summaries about twice in APA. You're going to be citing the article in APA, so that's very important. Purdue OWL is a great source to help you, and I have a bunch of handouts in the APA module too. So what am I looking for? You're going to need to state the name of the authors, the year the article was published, the title of the article, and the journal it was published in APA. And if you can't find these information, might not be empirical, so think about that. You need to state what the article is actually investigating. So with the sample in the module, I have a preschool readiness skills sample. So it's really talking about preschool readiness skills. You need to talk about the developmental domains that they're focusing on. I really want you to spend some time on connecting the topic. If your articles are not connecting to the topic, you'll probably struggle in this area, and that will probably be a good reason to find a different article. So one of the other things you're looking for is the purpose of the study. What are they trying to learn? You're really going to be summarizing the article, which is the bulk of this summary part. So where are you getting most of the paper summary for you to write on is the methods section. So you're going to talk about their hypothesis. You're going to talk about how their data was collected. So depending on your topic, maybe they're having college students do a survey, maybe parents are doing a survey, maybe there are some questionnaires or an interview, maybe they're observing young children, maybe there are some assessments, some will even use report cards. It just depends on what the topic is and what that specific article was looking at. With that, I want to know specifics on that. Give me some samples of the questions being asked. I want you to even talk about the assessments being used. So are they using the parent and child inventory list, specifics on what the test and the assessments are? What is the purpose? So what are they looking at? So if I'm using like the ASQ, the ASQ has a lot to do with social emotional development for young children. So it's looking at the milestones. If I'm going to provide, I want the samples, I want you to talk about how were they investigating their hypothesis and how did they get their conclusion. So you also need to state the participants. How many did they have? What are their ages? Were there any specific demographics that you need to know? Usually gender and race is a good one. It usually breaks it down. If you're doing a topic on children on maybe a learning disability, it's typically going to tell you how many children had a learning disability and how many children didn't. Or maybe they're comparing learning disabilities. So they're going to say maybe there was 10 children with dyslexia, there was 13 children with test anxiety, just depends on your topic. Then you're going to write a summary of the findings that they came up with. You don't have to talk about the P's or any of the statistics. I know this class, many students have not taken statistics yet, so do not worry about that part. But just put it in language. Just put it in simple language. What did they find? Was their hypothesis supported? Was it not supported? What were their conclusions? So you're really going to emphasize that is going to be just one article. Then you're going to go to the next article. So I would probably put article 2. And then you're answering the same information that you did on article 1. And then you're going to keep, you're just going to keep that flow going. So you have article 1, article 2, you're going to have article 3, you're going to have article 4, and you're going to have article 5. So it's very important that you have 5 of the articles. Then the next part is going to be the critique. So you went through your 5 summaries of your 5 articles, and now you're going to have your critique. This really should be at least a page in length, and you're going to be citing. So you're going to be citing the articles at least twice in APA, if not more. You're really looking at this as compare and contrasting the 5 articles. So what we're going to start realizing with research, sometimes they're going to say the same things, and sometimes they're going to say differences. So maybe with some of the samples, like on preschool readiness skills, I have some articles saying that children that attend play-based preschools do better longevity-wise compared to academic. Then I might have another article that's stating, African-American girls that go to an academic-based preschool are showing in this study that they have they do better on their report cards when they're in the 8th grade. And that's actually a study on my thesis. But you're going to see there's a differences at times. So this is why it's important to be on the same topic so you can compare and contrast. So with this compare and contrast, you might even talk about, can you replicate this population? You can even state, what were some factors that may have not been considered? So maybe one of the articles was looking straightly at Latinos, and maybe that population, those findings would not be the same with Caucasian children. So those are some things that can kind of help you, like, is there some things can be replicated to another population, or maybe it was done on younger kids or older kids, vice versa, and it might not show with a different population. So it's very important to have that critique. You're also going to have a conclusion. So your conclusion is going to be at least a paragraph too. And in your conclusion, this is where you're going to be connecting the textbook again. So if, you're going to write a very quick, brief summary of what the articles, what your topic was finding, what did you learn, and did it connect to what the textbook or the PowerPoint is saying? And you're going to need a cite in there also an APA. So you're really going to spend some time on your summaries. You're going to have your critique, which needs to be about a page. You're going to be critiquing your different articles, and you're going to need to cite the articles. And then you're going to have your conclusion, and your conclusion is going to be summarizing it to kind of end the paper and to give you textbook connections to it, to your topic. So you're going to be connecting that information there. Then you're going to have your APA reference page. And then I have a list of different types of, topics you could possibly pick, but there is numerous other ones too. So don't feel like you're limited to this. So just kind of emphasize, you can pick, just talk to me about what your topic is going to be, and I can tell you how much empirical articles you're probably going to find. So looking at the grading rubric, the title page is 2.5 points, your introduction's 10 points, each summary is going to be 10 points, your critique is 10 points, your conclusion is 10 points, your reference page is 2.5, and then did you email the articles to me in a timely fashion is 5 points. Remember, you need to email those articles to me prior to you starting on the paper. So do not try to find the articles the day the paper's due and then you're going to write it. You're probably going to struggle and you're going to need some help from me. So make sure to start planning finding these articles just to get the okay from me if that article would be appropriate for the paper. And then your overall quality of writing is 10 points. So there's the 100 points, and then you have your grading rubric. So I'm hoping that helped. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me and I can help you with it. Usually it's going to be trying to find the topic is going to be most students struggle at first. So once you find the topic, you have it narrowed down. You need to make something very narrow, and we could talk about that if you have any questions. So hopefully that helped.